We are live once again. The holidays are over. And we are back at it. The boys are back in town, gents.
That's it. That's it, baby. We're back. Stronger than ever, well rested, and cold. Cold. It's
Yes,
cold
very
here in
cold.
Wisconsin this morning. It's 13 below here. Wind chill is going to be 30 below today. So,
Oof.
yeah, cold, cold, cold. It's a good day to sit inside and do nothing.
Except you will be out cutting wood.
I will be out helping a neighbor who is a good friend. He's got a tree that needs to come down, and he spends his winter someplace warmer. And he picked these dates to come back and cut down said trees. But there'll be about 5 of us out there, so we'll knock it out pretty quick. And stuff like that. A couple hours here, like here and there, like that. That's how you build community and have good friends and people who'll be there for you when you need them. Right?
No, that's absolutely right. We were joking in the green room that that's a problem for him, but no, I completely get it. Got to take care of the people that take care of us.
Absolutely.
Who we got on the hook so far?
Let's see. We got Will Parker in the house. We have a Will quorum already, and Gerald's on. Not coin number 952 from Oregon, and our brother Alan Kelly's in the house, and still in. I believe it's still occupied Virginia at this point.
I bet they do have a Republican governor down, don't they?
Well, there is that. Yes. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction up there. And yeah, been a long time. Started as a little holiday break, and then it kind of got away from us a little bit. So luckily, nothing's been happening in the world.
I know.
It's been so quiet.
Well, I think the quiet is about to be shattered.
Yes, and it started. I woke up this morning in a pretty darn good mood. Got to bed nice and early, and I woke up, flipped my body over, looked at my phone. It was immediately in a bad mood when I saw a piece of news this morning that we're going to cover.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. I mean, this is breaking news here on Coffee with Richard Will. Well, what are you actually drinking this morning? You're not a coffee guy. You got Bang.
No, I got Bang black cherry vanilla. My go-to morning elixir.
Oh, Don Bothwell is on out there in beautiful Northwest Montana. Glad to see you back, gents. Well, we are very excited.
I bet it is cold in Montana right now.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got a great show for you. I should say Will has a great show for you. Once again, I will be your America's favorite cymbal banging monkey. As Will discusses the finer points of finance and where this coming administration is going. Thank you to the 8 folks watching us live. Please like and hit that share button. And without much further ado, we'll add this to the stage.
There we go. The boys are back. And Rich, I thought about going back, and we missed a lot. You got there's wildfires, there's all the drama with Trump and Biden and all this stuff. And I thought about, we need to go catch up on some stuff. And then I realized after the first 6.5 hours of the show, then we could get to something current.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we'll just touch on that stuff as it comes up here and there over the next few weeks, because most everybody's seen that stuff in the news. Maybe we'll look at it a little bit from a preparation angle, because you will notice the people whose homes had a chance of surviving out in California were the people who were prepared.
Imagine that.
Yeah, there was one guy, I saw a brain surgeon, literally, and he had hoses and pumps and was ready to go and saved his home and his neighbor's home. So
you mean he didn't wait around for the government to save him?
And that's it. You're absolutely right. And it got me thinking, about 9/11. There's only one airplane that didn't hit the intended target.
That's
that
right.
was the one where people didn't sit around and wait for the government to do something. They took care of it themselves. Now, sadly, they all perished, but it chalked up as a failure for the bad guys. So,
well, they lived and died on their terms. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Instead of having the terms of the conflict dictated to you. I mean, I think every one of them, instead of giving Hillary Clinton and all these other sodomites Presidential Medal of Freedom, they should have given it to each and every one on that flight. Because, I mean, although we know men like Beeman, I think his name was, that
Todd Beamer. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It said, let's roll and all that kind of stuff. We'll never know who did or did not get after it with those terrorists on that plane, but
absolutely. I never thought about that. That would have been the thing to do right after that. But really, any time would be appropriate. But then again, that would also might lead some people to think that doing for yourself is a good thing, and that's not what the establishment wants.
No, I got to keep you on the tit.
Exactly right. So, all right,
Hey,
Let's
Adam
do it.
Boyd on. Hey, Adam.
Awesome. Good to see you, Adam.
Yeah, Mike just interviewed Adam. You need to check that out on the American Warrior Show podcast. I'm looking forward to hearing that myself. I'll be putting that on today. I got some work to do around the house, and I'll be listening to Adam's episode. I'm sure it's fantastic. Adam's
Awesome.
a fine American. God bless you,
Excellent.
brother.
Yeah, look forward to it. I'll do that today while I'm not outside in the cold. So,
Yeah.
um,
Erica's on. Let's see here.
let's see what else we got.
Thanks, guys. All right, let's get into
right.
it, my brother.
Let's go here. All right. So this is the one I woke up to this morning. In case you guys haven't seen it, Biden issued last-minute pardons to Fauci, others ahead of Trump inauguration. The others are Mark Miley, members.
Millie.
Thank you, Millie. Dr. Fauci, members of the staff, members and staff of the House committee that investigated the January 6th riot, Capitol riot, as well as police officers who testified before the committee. Okay. This is some third world crap right here.
Amen.
This, and I don't care which side it comes from. And we're going to touch on the other side of, well, not the exact same other side of this, but where I have a problem with what else is going to happen today from the other political aisle.
Mhm.
This is not how the system's supposed to work. Now, Rich and I were talking about this in the green room prior to the show, and you had a great observation because I missed what wasn't there. Which names are not on this list, brother?
Who's not on the list? Who did not get a pardon, but probably begged for one on their hands and knees was Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, and Jack Smith, just to name a few, folks. And you know, this administration is, you know, whether it's pardoning Hunter Biden, or pardoning Millie or Fauci, to me, this is just a way to escape accountability. I mean, there's not. I don't perceive what may be coming in the 47th administration as a witch hunt so much as a chance of accountability. You know, I'm sure you'll probably mention it, but you know, I've read that there's going to be an excess of 200 executive orders signed on day one.
Yep.
And it will probably be a day or two before we get the full context of every single one of them, or hopefully they'll post it on whitehouse.gov today. That remains to be seen.
Yeah. And that, if you go to the next slide, that is exactly my problem. And we'll just paraphrase this right down to what you said. 200 executive orders. This is not supposed to be a monarchy that changes every 4 or 8 years. Run it through the system, pass a law, do it the right way. Now, my beautiful bride did bring up a valid point last night. She said, well, what about if there are executive orders that undo stuff Biden has written executive orders on, say in the last 2 weeks or really since the election? It's like, okay, maybe, depends. You know, we'll wait and see what the full context of these are. But it's like every president just does more and more of these things. I'm very hesitant to say, oh, you know, you only get 8 or over, maybe, you know, let's say 20 during a term or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a slippery slope as well. But
why are you reticent to say that?
Well, because then it's like, well, you know, if we put a limit on it, then when the political winds shift a certain way, let's say during the Biden administration, let's say there'd been a limit of 20 over the course of a 4-year term. Well, let's say they get control of Congress during the last 2 years of that presidential term. What's to prevent them from knocking that number down to 4 for the next guy?
I see what you're saying.
Right.
By putting a cap on it, it's something that could be in play.
Yeah. I mean, you can get a concealed carry permit in New York City. Here's your 57 steps, and it's going to cost you $80,000, right? But you have your constitutional rights. So, but do you? Right. So that's the slippery slope that I perceive there is I'm sure it would be gamed out.
Yeah.
Or they would have one executive order with 27 parts, or they're going to find a way around it because it's what, you know, the swamp does, right?
Who enacted the most? Do you know that answer?
I think it was Obama up until maybe today.
Not even close.
Really? Who was?
Yeah. FDR, I think 3,700.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course he had not quite full 3 terms, and he's dealing with the Depression and World War II, etc. But I mean,
yeah, but even so, I mean, and I will be the first to say, I'm going to preface this with I voted for Trump 3 times, but this putting a hold on the TikTok ban, I completely disagree with him on that. It went through Congress. It was passed into law. It went through the Supreme Court. They upheld it. One person should not get to undo that.
Yeah, I don't understand all that. I know all the girls in my house are very excited that TikTok is still here, and I'm like, you're missing the forest for the trees, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why. The only thing I can think of is an American is in the process of purchasing it. I could be wrong.
And of course, it was rumored it was going to be Elon for quite a while, but that has a bad look to it because Elon's a outright Trump supporter, right? So now it looks like Trump is doing that to enrich a supporter, and that's a bad look.
It is a bad look.
So I'm a big fan of run it through the system. Executive orders, in my opinion, should be, a World War II type thing. My guess is that, sorry about that. My guess is that, FDR just got a little addicted to that power. There's also a reason he's the only 3-term president. And after his 3rd term, his own party enacted term limits.
Yeah.
There's a clue in there somewhere.
Yeah. Gerald says we only have 4 years, no time to undo Biden. We can only hope Vance or another Republican wins. Yeah.
Sadly, you're right.
And Alan reminds us, but the governor's term is limited. We may only have 1 more year to fight off the occupied Dems with a deluge of anti-gun bills in the legislation, and they have presented one last veto round. Derek is on. John is on. Welcome, folks. Yeah.
So this is one, Alan sent this one to me a while back, and then also got it from my mom, actually. This one, I had never even heard of this metal before. It's antimony. You ever heard of that one, Rich?
No, sir.
I think it goes on the flux capacitor, if I remember correctly. But it is, you'll notice the top article here is from November of last year, and the most recent one here is from December 4th of last year. Obviously, this metal is not a household name, but it's essential for making bullet casings, explosives, gunpowder, all kinds of stuff. And last year, China banned the export of it, and it's becoming a big deal. And I think it's going to become a bigger deal. If you read if you Google up the top article there's a couple of companies in there that may be profiting off of this. They're actually reopening an antimony mine up in Nova Scotia. I may or may not have money invested in a few of these. Hashtag not financial advice. But I would say that I'm up 50% in it already.
Whoa.
Yeah. That did not suck. So
it's a pretty damn good return.
Yes, it is.
The bigger underlying issue is why would they ban the export of something that goes explosives?
Yeah, I wonder why. I know why. They thought Biden was going to win and there's going to be more gun control, so we wouldn't need it, so they might as well ban it.
That's one way to think about it.
I'm sure that was it. I'm sure there's no nefarious reasons afoot that rhyme with Taiwan. I'm sure there's nothing like that. So something to keep an eye on, guys. I don't know if this will affect ammo prices for us retail buyers, but it's something to keep an eye on. If Russia, Ukraine keeps cranking, we know Israel, Hamas currently has a ceasefire going on, but we know how that goes over there. Something to keep an eye on, though. If you're thinking about stocking up on ammo, I went and looked, and I was shocked how cheap 9mm was now.
Oh yeah, now's the time to buy, folks.
Yep. So my tinfoil hat is somewhere over there. Sorry,
don't mess that ever up. No.
I know, extra time just for you guys this morning. I've been up since 3:24. The machine is going to be looking for drama with President Trump 2.0. And let's face it, the machine is terrified of President Trump 2.0 because this time he's coming in ready. And the last time he said, I really didn't expect to win. So he didn't have a transition team ready, didn't have plans ready, believed that people would, switch sides, so to speak, and be loyal employees, if you will, whatever the right word is. And he got a real lesson on that, right? And we've seen, man, he hit the ground running as president-elect. He knew who he was putting where, had the plans in place, and he's got 2 years of a lot of power with both houses, right? So there's going to be a lot getting done and some drama somewhere else could play into that. And back to our thing, could drive ammo prices.
Yeah.
So
Stock up, guys.
I am ordering monthly right now, and just gonna sit on it.
Yeah, not fear mongering. You know you're going to
Right.
use it, so
Yeah, exactly. So, and I will admit, the last couple of years, I've kind of slacked off shooting, been remodeling the house. I wish my house looked this organized. This is just a generic backdrop, so you don't have to see the mess that's behind me currently as we're working on the wife's office right now. But yeah, it's I'm gonna pick up the shooting thing again this summer and really get my skills hopefully back to where they were.
Mhm.
So
Always a good idea.
yes,
Ooh,
for sure.
look at this.
Yeah. So our standard beginning for this before I was angry this morning, CNN's Fear Greed Index, which I have found increasingly useful. Um, and this, as you can see on the chart on the bottom there, it bottomed out down about 25, 26. It's been coming back up. We've given back almost the entire, if not all, of the post presidential election bounce. The stocks went up quite a bit right after that. We've given back almost all of that, if not all of it. The Will, I'm gonna touch on exactly what you're saying there.
Mhm.
And so it's coming back up here. We're gonna wait and see. I'm playing a lot of wait and see in the market right now. I'm sitting on again, not financial advice. I'm sitting on about 33% cash right now.
Wow.
And the reason for that is that there's gonna be a big transition here. We don't know what's gonna happen. Um, and
Am I right to say that's probably the most since you and I have been doing the show 4 or 5 years now?
for
That's the
any
most.
length of time, yes. There
Yeah.
were times I was like 80, 90%, but that was more during a little transition phase where, I had to do that. This has been going on for about a month now.
Mhm.
Um, I'm happy to say that my magic 8 ball was correct, that there was going to be a pullback, and I went to a lot of cash here. The Between now and, let's say, June, July, we've got some hard numbers to lap when we look at year ago numbers for things. Um, we've seen what the revisions have done. We've touched on that in past shows. Revisions for unemployment numbers and CPI numbers, how they always seem to be revised downward after positive reports when there was
Mhm.
a Biden White House. Will that continue now? We'll see. That could make things, if they just tell the truth the first time around, that's going to change things, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of transition here for a few months. So um, I am at my age, in my mid 50s here, I'm more interested in sleeping well at night than making every possible dime off the market.
Mhm.
So that's my reasoning there. Um, so we'll see how that shakes out.
Okay.
So um, let's bring Will Parker's thing back up. Yeah. Can you read that one off for us, brother?
Yeah, man. Says we have 3 hours and 15 minutes to continue praying they don't assassinate President Trump.
That's the other reason I'm sitting on cash.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff out there, some folks like we'll have 1,000 dead in America by, and I'm not talking terrorists. I'm talking about internal
Mm-hmm.
blue on blue kind of activities, if you will, by 1 April. And then there are other that's saying this year could see upwards of 50,000 killed in some sort of terrorist thing, because I think if we think they're going to go gently into that good night as mass deportation comes along, I think we're
Mm-hmm.
fooling ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I mean, let's face it, they, as he put it with the quotes, they already took 2 runs at Trump. One was just what, an inch away with iron sights, right? Or did he have a dot,
You had a
unmagnified
dot.
dot? He had an unmagnified dot at 100 yards, which he was a young man. I don't know what his eyes are like. I know what my eyes are like at 100 yards with an unmagnified dot.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's it's
Whatever. And here's another thing. We never found anything out about Stephen Paddock, and we
mhm,
never found anything out about this kid who,
mhm.
all the secured phones that he had and all this other stuff, like it just disappeared in the news cycle.
Yep.
Now,
So yeah.
speaking of that, and that's something, speaking of assassinations, did you see where Trump is going to release all the classified documents related to Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination and John F.
No,
Kennedy's assassination?
no. Now,
Yeah,
I will say, I hope he does, but let's remember before his first term, he said he was going to release the JFK files. And then later he said, after reading them, the country is not ready for that, or something to that extent.
yeah. Allegedly told Judge Napolitano that if you saw what I saw, you'd make sure they never got released either. And I'm like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't handle it, put your big boy panties on.
Yep.
You killed an American president so that we can
Well,
go to war. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and this is part of the, I'm going to call it, America needs to grow up.
Yeah, amen.
So yeah, the government has done bad things. I presume that's why he did not release those. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who need to lose faith in the government.
Bingo.
Right there. So
Yeah.
hey, let's bring Michael Gentili's comment back up. He said short CNN and NBC. Let me geek out financially for a moment. So
Please.
there's an ETF called SQQQ. It's a triple short on the NASDAQ. So if the NASDAQ goes down 1%, SQQ goes up 3%. So I took a small amount of money and bought short dated call options on SQQQ. So they expire this coming Friday. NASDAQ would have to go down about 30, well, no, closer to 15% for these to get in the money for me. Without trying to sound big timey here, brothers, and I apologize if it comes across that way, but if this call options hits, the only way it's going to hit is if somebody takes a run at Trump. And I really hope that doesn't happen. This is not me trying to profit off of that. This is me trying to protect the rest of the portfolio. This is a hedge. Okay. So I don't want anybody to mistake my what I'm doing here. But $500 turns into $80,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What was that call sign again?
You gotta be able to trade options.
Okay. Is it SQQ?
QQQ. It's the $40 call option for January 24th.
Noted.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, if that doesn't happen, I'm out the way options work. I'm out the $500.
Yeah, big deal.
So this is just a way to hedge the rest of the portfolio. This is not me. If I was trying to profit off that, I'd add a couple zeros behind that $500.
Yeah.
If I really thought that was going to happen. Of course, none of us want that to happen. Same way, you and I never wanted to see Biden or any other president or presidential candidate assassinated. That's bad for the country. Period. End.
Amen.
Okay? This is just a way to protect the rest of the portfolio for a relatively small buy-in.
I'm so glad you made it very clear like that. I love that. And Michael Gentili, good morning, sir. It says Pompeo, former CIA director, counseled against it. Good for him. I appreciate your opinion, and I'm going to do what I want to do there.
Yeah.
And I think, and this goes back to what you were saying, not to make the show longer, but he is coming at this 47th administration at a dead run.
Mm-hmm.
Last time, I think he stumbled a bit into it, and that's fine. I mean, I would too. But this time, nope. I've seen the strings on the marionette. I know how this works, and I'm not fooled by the puppet show anymore. So I'm going to put my people in there, and we're going to get shit done. And if they don't get it done, then you can kiss this republic goodbye. And I don't want to be too dramatic about it. That's my opinion.
Well, and we see certain people. I mean, Bill Maher's been making sense for a while.
Scary.
There's a warning sign in there somewhere. And I say that from the standpoint of just how crazy things had gotten. I mean, I just watched a 15-minute clip of him yesterday saying, let's face it, Trump was right about the wildfires in California. You got to clean up that underbrush or you're going to have a problem. And Trump said that when he was in office the first time around when there was a smaller fire. And what happened? Nothing.
Yeah.
And State Farm pulled out of California. And the reason they listed was mismanagement of the forest and an inevitable catastrophic fire or something to that extent. And everybody bashed on them when they left, but it was a pure business decision because State Farm would have loved to have had all those premiums. But they went, the risk isn't worth it. That's what insurance companies do. And they are darn good at it.
Incredibly good at it.
And that's it. So, I mean, elections have consequences, and let's face it, California kept putting Newsom and people like him in power, and it was all about the Delta smelt and so on and so forth. Well, those chickens coming home to roost.
Will Parker says, I would be surprised if any previous president entered the White House more prepared. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Name
Yep.
me, who was it? Calvin Coolidge, who was a two-term, or Governor, was it Grover Cleveland? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Anyway, they may have, but in a modern sense, no, there's nobody.
Yep. So, yep, crazy stuff. So, this goes back to something we talked about, and something I was very glad to see this from Bloomberg.
Gradual.
Trump team studies gradual tariff hikes under emergency powers. I think it was actually our last show before the holidays. We talked about this and how it would give the economy, business time to absorb these changes. So this plan would boost import duties 2 to 5% a month on trade partners. That wasn't what we had laid out, but they decided after a lot of talks with Donnie, that's what I call him when he calls me. They decided to go with looks like they're looking at a monthly thing. Is the way I should spit that out. But this does the same net effect of what you and I talked about, Rich, is this lets everybody slowly get used to this. Now, make no mistake about this. This will drive inflation. Prices are going to go up.
Yep.
Period. Dot. And anybody tries to tell you something different is playing politics.
Yeah.
Okay. Prices are going to go up, which is going to decrease people's purchasing power. The good news is over time, and people will have to be patient, which is not something Americans are good at. That manufacturing, those jobs, whether it be American companies building facilities and capabilities here within the United States, or foreign companies doing it and then hiring Americans and increasing wages here, is going to take time, and there's going to be a lag. It takes time to build those buildings, build that infrastructure, and there's other problems that come in. We know the grid is stretched as is. Now you add a whole bunch of traditional factories, never mind all the AI stuff, right? That's going to put stress on the grid. There's going to be growing pains in this. But this is the undoing, if you will, of what happened 70s, 80s, 90s when China joined the World Trade Organization and everything left here. This is the undoing of it. We enjoyed years and years and years of deflation, lower prices. And this is the undoing of that. If, as a society, we want higher paying jobs like we had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, higher paying blue collar jobs, I should say. Now, the world moves on. We can't always just go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, even though the cars and the music were better. We can't always go back to that. The world has evolved, right? So there's going to be a balance that happens somewhere in here. And I would bet even this 2 to 5% a month, knowing Trump, is the start of a negotiation tactic, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's the way it's done. That's business, right?
Yeah.
Not personal, just business. So, but again, this is something that I really want to see go through Congress, not be done via executive order. I'm completely against that.
So, which part you're against?
There's the tariffs.
You want to go through Congress?
I want it to go through Congress or whatever. I'm not sure how that machination actually works. If that's usually a congressional thing or if it goes through, I don't know how that works. So I'm just
Congress has the power, but after 1913 something happened and they stopped doing it. And you can watch the graph just fall off a cliff. And so I think Trump is right to bring it back, but he needs to bring it back gradually, because if you go back to the nullification crisis of 1832, you had at least one state threatened to secede.
Yep.
And Andrew Jackson started raising an army to put a potential insurrection down in South Carolina. So because this can disproportionately affect certain regions of the country.
Yes.
There's a whole way that this could screw up some stuff.
Yes.
The only reason I would say Congress, because it's hard for them to get anything done. Everybody would have to agree on something. Congress can't even agree that illegals that rape American citizens need to be deported. At least one side of the aisle can't agree that that's a good thing. So.
Well, and maybe let me clarify that a little bit now that you bring that point. Because it's a good point. Maybe start there. Okay, I tried to get through Congress. Here's your executive action.
Yeah.
I could probably squint at that and see it. Also, the whole illegal thing. I mean, that's, team red versus team blue. And the tariffs are going to be like that as well, just to be clear. But it's going to be a whole lot harder for a Republican to cross the aisle on that, I think.
Mhm.
And you're right, it can affect certain regions more. So I think if they're being as smart as I hope they're going to be about this, it's going to be here's all of them. Here's where this one's going to affect maybe California more. Maybe this one's where it's going to affect Tennessee more, Wisconsin more. But you average them all out, it's all about the same. That would
Did you
be a
see where?
great way to put that.
No, I think you're right. And did you see where Trump, or at least I read this, I haven't heard him say it, but I had read that he's going to start, we have the IRS,
Mm-hmm.
Internal Revenue, he's going to start the ERS, External
Mm-hmm.
Revenue Service, being
Yes.
a place where you see what's going on with the tariffs.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing when it comes to transparency.
Yes.
And we've had a free ride, and so have some of our partners have had a free ride,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? At the expense of what? American companies.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And that's, all that excess money printing that's really been happening really since the .com bubble, but it's accelerated over time. All of that excess money printing should have caused inflation. It didn't because we exported it we exported those dollars to other countries. Those come back, we're going to get inflation. Make no mistake about it.
yeah.
So
This is a great point here. This is, in my opinion, 100 nuclear power plants to begin construction this year. I would love that. That's the only way we're going to achieve, some sort of energy independence. I mean, yeah, we can. Is oil the finite resource we've been led to believe? Probably not. It's probably more renewable than we think. But I still think he's absolutely right. Nuclear power plants need to come online, man. And they don't have to be giant.
No.
I mean, a lot of military bases have small reactors that are chugging away just to supply power to the base. So, and we see the same thing with aircraft carriers.
Right.
And we can do these things smart, folks. And I don't know why we don't.
Yep. And we can't. I'm actually getting this from Bill Maher yesterday when I watched that, and I'd heard it before. We could go to zero emissions, and compared to what China's doing, it doesn't matter. They're building so many coal-fired power plants, and all that stuff blows our way. So, yeah, I'm all for nuclear. I'm all for spanning that gap with oil. And we know what they're scrapping plans to shut down coal-fired power plants in Kansas or Missouri simply because they're going to build an AI data center next to it, and that AI data center is basically going to use up all the power from that plant that was going to be decommissioned. Because they pull immense amounts of power into those databases.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Don says we could put thorium salt pebble bed reactors right in communities. They can't melt down or run away. They're the safest type out there, but they can't be used to produce plutonium for weapons. Hence, they're not current popular type. What's Michael say?
Says the permanent Washington bureaucracy calls elected officials the summer help. This is going to take more than one administration and a vigilant eye on both houses of Congress. Yep, couldn't agree more. I never heard the summer help thing, but I don't doubt that one bit, because that's the dog and pony show, right? It's and part of this too is the way laws are passed. Is they'll say regulations. We're passing this law. Regulations to be determined by the administrator. And regulations have the power of law, as we all know, dealing with Second Amendment issues, right? And then the machine, the Washington bureaucracy, as Michael put it, they can twist the meaning of a law, add things, take things away. This is the stuff that needs to stop.
I absolutely agree with you. And this is why, to me, all eyes should be on the Republican Party right now. We know what the left's going to do. Don't waste your time. If they're going to lockstep vote to let illegals stay here and continue their asylum process after they have raped and killed an American citizen, we know exactly where their game plan is. So all eyes should be on the right. Guys, it's your time. It's just your opportunity to lose.
Yep. I actually sent off a email to my House person and the two senators, encouraging them to use a line that I use once in a great while, because it's a bad one to use, but it is kind of entertaining at times. And I will say, your opinion is noted and duly ignored.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to drop the bomb.
Amen, brother.
Yep.
Amen.
So I see Alan says his governor of Virginia is pushing for small nuclear reactors in southwest regions of Virginia, where the coal fields industry is almost non-existent.
Mhm.
So there you go. And they can be strategically placed, right? And if they're small, they don't require a lot of cooling capacity. Like you see the huge cooling ponds around some of the ones that were built down in Illinois when I grew up down there. Don't hold it against me. You know, the technology's come a long ways, and people act like we're still dealing with 3 Mile Island technology, and it's just, yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, I see Giles on from the Philippines. Good to see you, brother.
Hey, welcome on, Kyle.
So
Excited to have you. Glad
Yeah.
and happy to be back.
So this is something to keep an eye on because the economy has not stopped, right?
Mhm.
And it's not going to stop in probably 3 hours now. And nothing's really going to change in the underlying stuff. And that's one thing too we need to look at. There's a lot of things in play that, Trump isn't going to come in and wave a magic wand. I mean,
Right.
we're like, oh, inflation is down. Well, it's still 50% above the target. It's running about 3%, 2.9, I think. That's still 50% above the target of 2%. So these problems don't disappear simply because of executive orders or debates about them. So we still need to watch all this other stuff too, right?
Amen.
This is from CFO. U.S. corporate bankruptcies hit a 14-year high as interest rates bite. So a lot of companies that brought on, say, 5-year debt in 2020, 2021, this is going to start rolling over here this year and into 2026. 686 companies filed for bankruptcy in 2024, an 8% increase from the previous year, and the highest raw number since 2010, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence.
Mm.
So, this is an underlying thing because consumers are getting squeezed. You look at the latest earnings report from Target; that's basically what they said, and we're seeing this from more and more places. Target's talking about seeing more sales receipts, if you will, but each one's a smaller dollar amount.
Mm.
So we're seeing this trend we've been talking about the last couple of years continue. People are continuously getting squeezed. Now, if we drill, baby drill, like Trump's talked about, that's going to bring oil prices down. 30-day lag, that comes through to CPI. All those things are true. Nationwide, housing is relatively healthy, but as we know, you and I don't buy houses nationwide. We buy houses either where we live or where we want to live.
Mhm.
So, something to keep in mind when we look at the housing numbers is the number that is reported through the CPI number or through the PCE number for the Fed. That's a nationwide number. And right now, I will attest in my ongoing research for my spot in God's waiting room in Florida. Florida is falling apart. It
Really?
is continuing to fall apart. Yes, we're looking at the southwest region of Florida, Fort Myers area,
Mhm.
and each month I get updated numbers from Zillow, and each month it's down about 6% from the previous year over year.
Mhm.
So that's been going on for about 6 months now. So it's just a continuous slide downhill. We're seeing more and more places that are motivated seller needs to go. My wife ran across one yesterday. They said right in the Zillow listing, we'll
Mhm.
be dropping the price again in 30 days.
What?
Yep.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
Yep. But people are getting desperate. It's, we've talked about it before.
Well, then I'll see you in 30 days. I mean, why would you
Exactly.
telegraph that? What a stupid thing to do.
They're desperate because inventory is through the roof. Typically, a balanced housing market is about a 6-month supply. So you take the number of houses on the market, divide that by the number of houses sold in the last 30 days. And if you got
Mhm.
about a 6-month supply, that's balanced between buyers and sellers.
Right.
Right now, that area of Florida is running about 14 months of supply.
Oh,
Some
wow.
of that is seasonal because this is snowbird season right now.
Mhm.
And so there's more potential buyers in the area. Everybody goes down there. Oh, this would be great. Let's buy a place, So there tends to be more inventory this time of year anyway. But this is usually it would go maybe 8 months, maybe
Mhm.
7 months, somewhere in there, but 14, 15 months. There's even some areas that are above that
Mhm.
um, with new stuff coming on every day. So it's some people are getting desperate down there. Airbnbs are losing money. People who bought it strictly as an investment to short-term rental it, they're losing money.
Mm.
And it's easier to walk away from something like that, right?
Mhm.
Hand the keys back to the bank, be like, have a nice day. So we're seeing the same thing in Austin. Austin is down, their prices are down about 30% right now from the peak. Nashville is seeing much the same thing. And nationwide, we're seeing a lot of multifamily come on the market, and that's going to drive down rents, which will eventually flow through to decrease single family home, especially starter home type stuff,
Mhm.
prices. Because, I've got a 22-year-old son, and, he's looking at moving out. He's tired of dad. Who can blame him,
I
right?
can't believe that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you've met me. I mean, who wouldn't want to live with me,
That's what I
right?
said.
But so he's looking at it going, Dad, I mean, I can rent for 2/3 of what it costs me to own. And of course, as a Gen Xer, I'm like, no, you must own, you must build equity. But
Right.
you sit down and look at the math problem, it's like, okay, something's got to give. And up
Right.
here in Wisconsin, to the other side of what we've been talking about, there's a 3-month supply of homes for sale here in the Wausau area.
Mm.
3 months. That's tight. And stuff comes on the market that's even decent at a relatively fair price, it's gone in a week or two.
Yeah.
And if it's a multifamily, a duplex that's in good shape, it sometimes it won't even make it on the market. The realtor will be like, I know somebody,
Exactly. Yeah.
and they'll just come in and pay cash for it. So very tight right now up here. So, and we're seeing in general Midwest and Northeast, very tight supply of housing. So this
Mhm.
is something to keep an eye on in your area. Watch what's going on, because the home prices, and this drives through to construction jobs. When somebody buys a home, they buy furniture, they buy appliances. This travels throughout everything.
Yeah.
What's Don have to say there?
Don says personal debt, credit card balances are at or near all-time highs. There are a lot of people living on the edge with maxed out cars. A percentage of credit card utilization counts 30% on your FICO score. That means a bunch of folks are going to see those go down.
Yes.
And to that end, you can go to Walmart right now and
Mhm.
buy something that costs $100, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do buy now, pay later?"
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
like, I
And yeah.
and everybody's doing it, and that's
Yep.
not counted in any of this stuff, is it, Will?
You are absolutely correct, sir. And people are using buy now, pay later for their grocery items at Walmart. Walmart's reported that. And the buy now, pay later is such a great deal for the people doing it. Walmart's actually bringing that in house.
I'm sure they would. Why would they not, want to keep
Yeah.
that money? What I can't figure out is why, and I may be showing my ignorance here, why wages are so flat when everything else is going up. We talk about inflation, the price of everything, and wages are, flat. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't know that if I didn't know a lot of people in their 20s that
Mhm.
are like, unless you're in the really hot tech sector and you're in much need. I'm thinking of my oldest son. Man, you're screwed.
Yeah. It's tough out there right now.
Hmm.
It really is. And it is flat, but we also have to, I think, and I hadn't really thought about it, so this is just me spitballing here, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Flat compared to what? I mean, inflation's running 3%. So if the wages are going up 3%, you're technically flat, right? Or is it the perception that it's flat because everybody isn't throwing, $40 an hour at somebody saying, welcome to Walmart, right?
Hmm.
Because there for a while it took so much, it was such a shock what you had to pay people to get them to come out and work.
Hmm.
And then the other thing in here too is student loan payments start back up, and the Trump has said we're coming after people who haven't been paying,
Hmm.
and they haven't been doing that. So
Well, let me
um,
define what I mean then, because I think
okay,
you're right. I think that's important to say exactly. You mentioned 50%, and inflation is a relative number. A lot of people say, "Well, look, it's only rose 2%." Like relative to what?
yeah,
Because when you do the relative, and then you get into what's real and what's not. Wages have not kept up with that.
correct, yep,
Now, I don't know, and a lot of people want to say, "Well, that's greed," and that's just bullshit, But so, what is the causation behind that? I don't know.
yeah. I don't know, as have we reached an equilibrium type point? I don't know. I
And
mean,
I agree with you. An unskilled laborer, a Walmart greeter, no disrespect to the Walmart greeters or the buggy pushers and all this other stuff, no disrespect at all. But it is unskilled labor. But I'm talking about even skilled labor, like one of my someone in my circle, he's got a bachelor's degree in business from a really good school, and in finance. I'm sorry, got a job at the bank, and he's making peanuts.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm like, well, I can move some CDs. Will that help you? It's like, well, not really. I'm like, you would think there'd be a commission structure there. There's just a whole lot of things I don't understand right now with the market.
And so this is me spitballing off the top of my head here. I wonder, like, when I came up in aviation in the 90s, the jobs, aviation was in a depression. So they didn't have to pay out. There were so many pilots. You couldn't swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting an unemployed pilot.
Mhm.
So therefore the wages were very depressed because you had guys lining up around the corner to get a job, lousy jobs. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm wondering but the promise was that there's a big payoff in the end. You get the job with the major airline, good quality of life, good pay, good bennies, at that time pensions, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of that there's that carrot at the end of the career track. And I don't know how banking is with that. I mean, when you make, I don't know, I have no idea what bankers make. So you make VP of a regional bank, are you making, I'm sure, well into six figures? And we know it's called bankers hours for a reason, right?
Mhm.
Is it that promise of the future and the future of that employment, that career track, and therefore the entry level jobs aren't great because you got to pay your dues. We got to weed out all the people. I don't know. I'm
Hey, you
just
got a great
posing.
point, and you're absolutely right. I joined the Marine Corps as a private with aspirations to, later become an officer and retirement and all the benefits. And, it's going to suck for a long time, and your
Mhm.
kids might be on WIC or whatever for the
Yeah.
first couple of years. But if you stick with it and do the right things, it can be very lucrative. Uh, so I don't disagree with that. And if that is the case, then run after that carrot, man.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, and it's that old thing. No matter what career track you're on, make yourself valuable, right?
Amen. Find a need and fill it.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to our bankruptcies, this is a number of bankruptcies by year going back to 2010. When you see the 2024 number, you got to go all the way back to 2010 to find more. Now,
Mm.
the what they leave out of this is, what are the size of the companies? Obviously, a lot of larger companies went bankrupt in 2010 at the bottom of the housing crisis. Um,
Well,
so,
what's bankruptcy even mean?
you
Is
know,
it an opportunity to restructure, or is it I'm completely insolvent?
yes, it can mean both. Well, Chapter 11 is reorganization. Chapter 7 is insolvent, where
Then
you
why would they
liquidate.
add those two together when they should break them apart?
I don't know.
You know?
Really don't know. My running joke is um, when a company goes through bankruptcy numerous times, I just start adding the numbers up. So if they've been through Chapter 11 three times, I say they're in Chapter 33. Um, and I think that's how it should be done because some companies just use bankruptcy as a health restoring event. It's a
Sure, yeah,
business strategy. You go,
yeah.
and airlines are notorious for this. And, so a business will go in and, pay more. And when times are good, they'll pay more. They'll knowingly pay more than they can afford long term during a downturn, but they have to have the people. They have to keep their people happy. And then as soon as there's a downturn, they go in and go, we're bankrupt. Here we go. We're going to read, the bankruptcy judge now is going to come in and tell you all what you get paid.
Mm-mm.
So, which is not how it's supposed to be set up. But,
Hell no.
people find loopholes, right?
That's another thing. I remember, who Gordon Ryan is, right? For
Mm-hmm.
those that don't,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, probably the greatest living grappler. And I was watching him. They were, I don't know if it's ADCC or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and they were saying, okay, we got this rule this year. You can't do it. I'm just going to make up something. You can't do a Kimura from your back. I don't know what it was. It's something stupid. And he's like, what do you mean I can't do it? What's the penalty? Well, there's no penalty. You just can't do it. He's like, there's no penalty. Are you going to
Mm-hmm.
stand us up? No, you just can't do it. He's like, then there is no penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And I will do it, so
Yep.
as long as you write the rules in that kind of way, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I
And,
don't know why people don't understand that.
and that happens in business all the time. And
All
my
the time.
wife, who ran our business for 20 plus years until her retirement, her favorite saying was, or what?
Exactly.
You
Or
know,
what?
and this is the town where we had our business at. Um, Draconian might not be strong enough word for how they would do some things.
Mhm,
And so we want to put a sale banner up above on the top of the building, above the front door.
mhm,
And to get a permit to do that for a week was, I'm kind of making the numbers up because I forget, it was like $250.
mhm.
Or if you don't get it, it's a $50 fine. Why should I go through the hassle of getting the permit if you're just going to fine me $50?
Right, exactly.
And
I
that's
get it.
exactly what we did. The fine would show up, we'd pay the fine and send it in. It's just the cost of doing business. And it was cheaper. It's a math problem,
Yes.
right? Or what? You
My
know?
wife hates when I do that. It's so funny,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
your wife and my wife, got along swimmingly. It's
Yes.
just
Yes,
funny
they
that
did.
they're,
Yeah.
diametrically opposed on that. Lisa's, my beautiful bride's kind of a rule follower, and I'm not. I
Mhm.
subscribe to what we've talked about on the show a million times, and that is, if it's payable by a fine, it's legal for a price,
That's right.
and I'm happy to pay that.
Yeah.
You make that. If they made it, it's a $20,000 fine. Guess what? You would have went through the permitting process and got the
Mhm.
permit for the sign, right?
Absolutely.
Because the juice ain't
Yep.
going to be worth the squeeze.
Right. Yeah. My line is rules are for unimaginative people.
That's right.
And if you want to hear I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I'm a NASCAR fan. I was really a huge fan of the 90s and early 2000s back when it was still stock car racing.
Mhm.
And Darrell Waltrip, classic NASCAR driver from the 70s and 80s, really was his heyday. If you guys want to look it up, just it's so entertaining. Even not a race fan, it's just so entertaining, the stories. He recently did a interview with Daryl Earnhardt Jr. on his show, and he's talking about the cheating stories back in the day. And
Mhm.
he said a lot of it wasn't cheating. There was nothing in the rule book said we couldn't do it. So the mantra was make them write new rules,
Mhm.
right? And there were some things they did that were just blatantly against the rules. There's just some hilarious stories in there about when they weigh the car, the helmets in there is one of the things that's part of the empty weight of the car, if you will. So they had identical helmets made out of lead. And
Oh,
they'd put
wow.
those on the car, and they'd have the radio for the communication with the pit crew. The face of it would look real, but the whole back of it was all lead and tungsten.
Whoa.
And they would do anything to do that. Because once the car passes inspection, it goes back to the garage. You take that helmet out and put the real helmet in. You just saved whatever 40 pounds, right?
Mm.
It was hilarious. And there's a classic picture of Dale Earnhardt out there with the car's being weighed, and he's got his foot underneath the car, lifting up on it while he's talking to a NASCAR inspector. There's just great stories out there. I won't eat up our time with all of them, but they're just awesome stories.
Yeah, I love that. Like, hey,
So
and again, if we catch you cheating, you're out for 2 seasons, then I'm sure they would slow down a lot of that stuff. But
absolutely. And part of it was just, I mean, back then it was the Good Old Boy Network. And yeah, that I won't bore you with all the stories of it now and eat up our time, but it was like they would also find things that were legitimately not covered in the rule book. And then NASCAR would write a new rule against that, and they'd go on and find something else.
and sometimes they do what Nike did with Michael Jordan,
Mhm.
famously with the Air Jordans. We're going to fine you at the beginning of every game. And Nike's like, yeah, we'll pay the fine every time. Because it's like,
Mhm.
you can have the shoes that the NBA is scared of that
Mhm.
won't let Michael Jordan play with it.
Yeah.
And it was a great marketing,
Yes.
amazing marketing.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So I see Gerald here has a point. People running up their credit cards may not have any intent of ever paying them off. And
Mhm.
there comes a point in time where for those folks, it becomes a math problem, right?
Yep. That's right.
And they can rinse, wash, and repeat through bankruptcy as well. And let's face it, the stigma of bankruptcy, whether it's corporate or personal, is pretty much gone.
Maybe we need to bring debtor prisons back. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a real argument to be made for it, you know, all
Mhm.
the way across the board. I mean, get people to act responsibly, but
Mhm.
then again, is it the chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
So, and to our previous point, many student loan borrowers are in for a big bad surprise in 2025 from Yahoo Finance. Um, the federal government, shockingly, is expected to start collecting on defaulted loans. Oh
What?
my goodness! Yes.
Can they do that?
Yeah. Apparently they can, but only if there's a extreme autocrat in charge.
Oh,
But yeah, and this is a funny one because the I remember reading about this and we touched on it in the show um, post pandemic. But the people who benefited most from the pause in student loan payments were like doctors, lawyers, dentists, people with higher student loans payments,
mhm.
right? Because if they're paying two, three, $4,000 a month or whatever it might be, when there was a pause in that, that was a whole lot more money going in the economy, right?
That's right. They could invest
Uh,
that.
whereas the person who goes and gets the I don't know the underwater basket weaving degree, whose student loan is $75 a month, you make that not happen. Well, that's not a big hit or a big boost for the economy, right?
Mhm.
So we'll see how this shakes out. And we know Biden is, as was talked about in a previous comment, he's been forgiving these things left and right, which is just bovine excrement. I mean,
Oh,
that's,
100%.
yeah, it drives me crazy. So nobody's around, nobody's forgiving my mortgage for me.
No, hell no. No, they're not.
So,
Will says if debtors' prisons came back, Congress would be there, which is interesting because there's a company, I think it's called autopilot.com. And
mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not, no.
But their tagline is like trade like a congressman. That's their tagline. And I guess
Okay.
they have some automated strategies that evidently it's going to give you. And the fact that everybody knows what that means is sad, right?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, I want to trade like one of those guys. I bet you do. We all do, but it should be illegal. But
Yeah. Well, and that there's been a push to ban the insider trade in Congress, and it never gets anywhere. Just like the term limits won't get anywhere,
Mhm.
right? And that's where Vivek Ramaswamy had a brilliant idea. Do you remember his idea for both of those?
Mm-mm.
You know, and he's right, and I think we would agree that the term limits and the banning of insider trading is never going to get past Congress. And he had such a simple, elegant solution: make it a 10-year sunset. Vote on it now, but it doesn't go into effect until 2035.
Mm.
You'll be retired by then. You got 10 years worth of money making. Even new people in Congress will be like, well, for 10 years, I can cash in,
Mhm.
right? But it goes away in 10 years.
Hmm.
You can no longer, it has to go into, like, say, a double blind trust or something like that, where you have no idea where the money's invested.
Mhm.
So that's those time periods like that. You do the same thing with term limits. Doesn't go into effect until 2035. I mean,
Mhm.
Mr. Congress lady, you're already, 114 years old, right? So that would be, I think that's the only way it would get through Congress, is put some sort of time limit out there. And if you want to do some research, guys, we've touched on the show in the past, the returns these Congress people get in the market is just astounding.
It's staggering.
It is, but it's all
And sadly, it's on both sides of the aisle too,
it
brother.
is absolutely. Yep. Who's the ex SEAL with the eye patch? Dan Crenshaw. He's crushed it for a number of years here.
Which is sick.
He's down in Texas and Houston, and it's been oil stuff, and he's just been crushing it. So,
Mhm.
but when you know what's going to happen before it's going to happen, it's real easy, right?
Weird, isn't it?
It is. It's funny how that works. So, um, and Will Parker says, please stop bagging on Nancy Pelosi. If you want to do some digging, she got pushed on that by 60 Minutes and just refused to answer the question at a public press conference.
Mhm.
So, um, are you talking about term limits there, Michael, with the state initiated constitutional amendment? I assume you're talking term limits.
Mhm.
I think you got to get 3/4 of states to sign off on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if 2/3 or 3/4.
2/3 or 3/4. I can't
My
remember.
civics is failing me on that one. So, all
Hey,
right. So
Tony's
that pretty much wraps up the show, doesn't it, Rich? Oh, hey, Tony, how are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
Now this is one that is our generation here.
Mhm.
Gen Xers is expected to keep working longer than they planned. First generation to go into retirement with less financial security than their parents and grandparents.
I
And
see this in our friends. You know,
yep.
they look like they're incredibly well off, but they're just so leveraged to the freaking
Mhm.
eyeballs, and they've not put away what they've needed to put away to maintain any semblance of the lifestyle that they live as two working adults. And I'm like, man, the day is coming.
Yep. It
You know,
is. And Some of this is I'll say lack of education, in how things. Thank you, Tony. 2/3 to pass, 3/4 to ratify. Thank you. We knew we kept you around here for a reason, Tony. Thank you.
That's right,
Appreciate
Tony.
that. This is a lot of this is going from defined benefit, a pension plan, to a defined contribution, a 401k, and people not being disciplined, not doing what they should. But from a leadership standpoint, to me, that goes back more to, were they educated, right? And this is where I agree with the premise, but disagree with the action of it. The new ones where it's you get employed someplace and it's mandatory that 4% or 5% or whatever number they pick goes into a person's 401k. I don't agree with being forced to do anything with your money, but I agree with need to really educate people. If you don't put money away, it's not going to go well. Social Security is not going to be here.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
This is something that every kid I put in the Marine Corps, I would tell them about the Montgomery GI Bill, right? And now it's the post 9/11 GI Bill. It's the way it used to work. You put $100 a month into this thing for the first 12 months you're in the military. Now, 3 months of that's going to be in recruit training, but for the first 12 months, you lose $100. Now, when you're making peanuts, $100 is a hard hit for an 18, 19-year-old person.
Yep.
And they're going, no, I don't want to do that. Staff Sergeant Gunny, whatever rank I was at the time. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to do that because it's going to be good for you long term. And it got so bad that even though recruiters are going, you got to do this to get the benefit later on, when you're mature and you want to go to college. Because right now they just want to run through the woods and blow shit up and get after it, right? Yeah. And the drill instructors at Parris Island be like, make them sign. You'll sign the damn thing or I'm gonna quarterdeck your ass till blood comes out your freaking eyeballs, because it's like you don't understand now. Yep. I even gave one of my nephews, I made sure he got a $50,000 bump on the GI Bill. That was a thing we could do back during the GWAT. And he was still like, I don't want to do it. I mean, I fought this kid tooth and nail. I'm like, buddy, I'll come to Parris Island and make you sign that damn document. And now that he's, got kids and he can pass it on to his children because he, fought and blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh my God, thank God. So why I understand your point of, hey man, it's a free market. Yeah. At some point, 22 and 23-year-olds just, they don't understand. You're not going to live forever. There's going to come a day when you need that damn money.
Yep. And I'm with you in spirit 110%. I mean, I look at my own kids, 22 and 18, and they're good kids and they're smart kids, which is all I have to do with my wife. Okay. But by the same token, they're 22 and 18.
Yeah.
Right? No different than you and I were, or these young people you're talking about, right? 10 foot tall, bulletproof, nothing bad's ever going to happen to me, so on and so forth. Right. Especially when it's an employer forcing somebody to do something with money. I'm like, because they don't know somebody's situation, right? Yeah. And maybe that $100 a month is the difference between making the budget or not. But it's it's kind of like the executive order limitation. It's that slippery slope, right? 4%, then it's 7%, and that's great for retirement savings. It's not their money to make that choice with, meaning the employer.
Right. Well, and Tony brings up, says the Marine Corps screwed me out of my GI Bill. I got a buddy of mine, got a Purple Heart. He put into the GI Bill, but the Marine Corps, he can't pull it out. You know why? Because he got an other than honorable discharge. He was a knucklehead and kept getting in trouble. And the Marine Corps was like, yeah, okay. The Marine Corps giveth and the Marine Corps taketh away. And that nullified his ability to use his Purple Heart in Texas to let his kids go to a state school for free. So again, there's sticks and carrots, right?
Right. Yep.
But here's a problem. We have to be comfortable, we as a nation, like letting people starve in the street. Yep. If we're going to do this experiment, then it's like, okay, man, well, you don't have a 401k, then good luck on your $900 Social Security and don't cry about it.
Yep. Well, and if there isn't that consequence, why should the next generation act responsibly?
There you go.
Grandpa didn't suffer. I'll just whatever. It worked out for them, right?
Moral hazard has to be in play.
Yes, absolutely. And let's face it, Wall Street has to have the consequences too, because they keep getting bailed out, right?
Yeah.
And that actually ties in with Gerald's point there. If you want to bring that one up, what's he saying?
Why can't they dump $1 trillion into Social Security? Would take away the threat of the public.
I mean, they'll drop $1 trillion in anything else, right?
Yeah.
How about take away the student loan forgiveness and apply those funds over Social Security?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Right.
and this is a great point. We've all paid into Social Security and the government's mismanaged it,
Mhm.
right? Individuals made choices on student loans, right?
Mhm.
So let the individual stand for the consequences of their own decisions. You
100%.
and I and everybody else didn't decide for the government to overspend and not put the proper amount away for Social Security, even though us and our employers put money in there.
Mhm.
So if you're going to print money for something and have everybody suffer the consequences of that through national debt, inflation, all that, why shouldn't it benefit basically everybody?
Brother, I completely agree with you. And I've always, one of the problems I have with this is obviously I'm pissed off from my perspective because I didn't do any of this, forgiveness, and I don't want any forgiveness for my kids. And I have a problem. I have some friends who never set foot into college and are wealthy, but by hook or by crook, they were out there in the freezing cold, cutting down trees and selling firewood and putting flyers under people's cars when nobody else was, and they busted their ass to become very, very wealthy individuals with a high school education. And you're going to make that person pay off some asshat that went and got a gender studies degree?
Yep.
No way. No.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And Gerald brings up, and I see both sides of this. Loan is a 4-letter word. And Rich, you and I are on opposite sides of this. I'm never paying my mortgage off.
Right.
I've got it at 275. I can go make more money than that in a money market right now. Right. Never mind the other stuff. Right.
So, I got a friend, man. My buddy started making in excess of $400,000 a year, and he had like a $200,000 house. And I'm like, pay the mortgage off. Well, I paid my cars off. Pay the mortgage off. Pay the mortgage off. Pay the mortgage off. And he kept buying another business and this and that. And now he's got himself over leveraged and he's hemorrhaging cash.
Yep.
And he's borrowing money as fast as he can get it. I'm like, did you pay your house off? No, I wish I had. I'm like, yeah. No shit. Now that you owe everybody and you're at a house payment on top of it.
Yep.
And it goes back to Will Parker. Starvation is a great motivation.
Yep.
And I'm like, bro, this is something that you just can take off the plate. When you're making that kind of money to drop the money and get the house out from underneath you, because it's one less thing you got to worry about. And if things go bad, which they are for him now, you can also leverage that equity and get some cash to keep your businesses going. Now you can.
Right.
So yeah.
All true. Yep. It is a risk and it's a calculated risk. It also depends what you do with the money you're going to pay the house off with. I don't go trade options with my house money. That is segregated off into very safe stuff.
If you're not going to do that, then you might as well pay your house off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
So yeah. So it's it's on how you segregate that out. If you go do very risky things during uncertain times, yep, that can come back to bite you.
Tony says just seeing the last minute pardons.
Yep.
We started the show with that.
We started with that, brother. Yep. And I woke up in a good mood this morning until I read that exact thing.
I couldn't wait to see Millie pulled back to active duty to face charges for getting aid and comfort to the enemy.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
That was what was supposed to happen.
Yep. So, so back to our Gen X, us born between 65 and 80 before all the sissies showed up. I'm kidding, but not. I love all the Gen X memes. But this is something that's going to affect us going forward in a lot of ways. Kyle says I renovated the place. No, I wish my house looked disorganized right now. We're remodeling another section of the house now, so it's all chaos upstairs.
Fake news, folks. That background is fake news.
Yes, absolutely it is. Yes. And the only thing scarier than me playing a piano is trying to sing along, because you do not want to hear me sing. It's bad. All right, so if we go to the next slide, let's think about this retirement stuff right here. Oh, I forgot there was another slide in there. 61% of non-retired Gen Xers are not confident in their ability achieve a dream retirement. Now, define a dream retirement. That's different for everybody, right? So I don't like that wishy-washy language in there, but let's take the gist of it. 61% are worried. Okay. That's going to drive, they should be, but that's going to drive behavior, right? And when behavior gets driven, sorry, I got the neighbor I'm supposed to help drop trees is just left me a message there. Sorry about that. So this worry, only 49% of millennials are worried, and they're still fairly young. So it's still something out there, the whole retirement thing, right? And 53% of non-retired baby boomers. Let's face it, baby boomers, I mean, they're still out there in the workforce, but there's going to be fewer and fewer every day, right? So and based on this author's conversations with Gen Xers, the dream retirement is not lavish holidays and private yachts. Well, duh, right? It means the lowest level of minimum financial certainty to meet our changing needs as we age. Well, even minimum financial certainty, having struggled early on in my pilot career financially, my minimum might not be somebody else's minimum. My minimum would be I never go out to eat ever. Right. And they may be like, well, we want to go out to eat 3 times a week. So even that wishy-washy language, define minimum. Is it poverty level stuff? Is it, what is it? Right. But the point being, we know there's a real problem there. And if we go to the next slide, we can sum up the problem.
Okay.
Gen Xers reported that on average, they will need 1.1 million in savings to retire comfortably. Yet they expect to stop working with about 660,000. This is retirement savings, not net worth. Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, we know the difference between average and median, right? We dig into that a lot. The median account balance for Gen Xers was $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 40% had zero. So there's a few out there on the high end that skew the average. But if you look at the median, it's a scary number. Right. And if we look up here at the top paragraph again, just 11% reported they will wait until age 70 to receive Social Security, which is where you get your maximum payment from the government at. They're going to go sooner because they have to. Right. Now, while that is a good thing from the government standpoint, government would love to see everybody go early because it saves them money in the long run. Right. The flip side of that is a lot of these people need the maximum Social Security benefits. So that means either work to 70 or greatly decrease their quality of life in retirement. Well, if they continue to work to 70, that affects the number of job openings for younger folks, right? And while it's easy to bag on millennials and their avocado toast and all that garbage, right? The reality is the millennials have had a pretty tough go of it. And I really don't think they get the credit for it. I mean, they came of age when I say came of age, I mean out of college looking for a job right when the housing crisis hit. And they lost a number of years there because a lot of older folks at that time didn't retire because they couldn't, because they lost money on their houses and or other investments or what have you. Well, that put them back. And now they're getting smacked again by COVID, inflation, and this is going to keep going for a while. And it's a legit problem for their generation. So
that's like the lost generations of attorneys that were, coming out of law school, passing the bar in 2007, 2008 happens. They can't get a job, and a lot of them just left the field altogether because it just went on for so long. They couldn't get work. And like, okay, well, I'll go build houses or something, because that's
got to do something, right?
Yeah.
So if we go to the next slide. So this is something I think, we like to look into the future and suppose on problems, right? So think about how this retirement, whether it be the boomers or really more the Gen Xers now, because we're the older workers now, right? This is going to affect all kinds of things. National deficits can be a lot harder for politicians to cut deficits. When doing so will hurt the economy even more, both for the Gen Xers and for the younger folks who do a lot of voting, right? It's also going to be tough to cut the national deficit and keep other things rolling. I mean, when the top 3 things are Social Security, Medicare, and paying interest on national debt, how do you cut the deficit without having an uprising, right?
Right.
Baked in the cake. So, and let's face it, I mean, I'm all for tax cuts. I'm
Mhm.
cheap, right? I want my money. But how do you do that and have anything even that smells like a balanced budget, right?
What about
Well,
tariffs?
or maybe even a budget. Tariffs will play into that. Now, look,
But
let
how
me,
much? Yeah.
well, and tariffs, if let's
At what
say,
cost?
but exactly at what cost,
Yeah.
so now tariffs come in and they fix the national deficit, but all of us are paying higher prices because they are inflationary, right?
Mhm.
How does that affect people's quality of life?
Well, they're
Right.
inflationary for a while until we
Correct.
bring some of these jobs back.
Yep. And
Who's going to work?
and are people patient enough to wait? I'm making up the number, say 3 to 5 years for all that to normalize,
No.
right? Will they understand it? And that
Mhm.
goes back to something I've said before. It's time for our generation to be the grown-ups
Mhm.
and be like, hey, listen up, guys. This is gonna hurt.
Mhm.
And tell, your kids, my kids, this is gonna hurt 3 to 5 years. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But here's the end state. It's
Right.
an investment, something
Mhm.
like that. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that's the way it shakes out,
It
right?
seems like politicians in my childhood did a pretty good job of this, whether it was Reagan or the older Bush. They would come on and
Mhm.
explain stuff to you.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm doing it.
Yep.
And we don't see that anymore. So
Yeah.
a lot of what they do makes no sense, and you can plug any nefarious reason you want into what the hell they're
Mhm.
doing.
Well, and it's funny you mention that because I just ran across in my hours of show research watching those shorts on YouTube.
Mhm.
Or I was just goofing off and didn't want to clean the house. The There was Ronald Reagan on Johnny Carson back in the day talking about
Mhm.
regulation.
Mhm.
And it was like, man, if a politician talked like that today and showed some leadership and the audience was just silent.
Mhm.
They were like, wow, you know. And believe it or not, I'm seeing flashes of that on Bill Maher with the stuff he's throwing out there. Even his audience, which definitely leans left, his live audience, right?
Mhm.
They're like, this California wildfire thing. It was like, he's like, I'm paying 13% in taxes. I expected you to do something. And the
Right.
crowd just cheered.
Yeah.
People are fed up with that, right? And it fed up with the fire department in Los Angeles, where the one, I think, assistant fire chief said,
Mhm.
well, if she is a woman can't pick your husband up out of a burning building, then he got himself in a spot he shouldn't have been in. Okay, hold on. No, 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 no. Nope. If
Mhm.
I'm in that bad a spot, yes, I pay taxes. I expect those services. Maybe they get to me in time. Maybe they don't. There's things that happen, right? But if you get there, I expect you to be able to do the job and carry my old beleaguered butt out of the burning building,
Mhm.
right? So, yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Will brings up a good point here. One of the reasons we don't trust the media, right?
Mhm.
How many talk shows are open to bringing in conservatives and allow them to talk, like actually allow them to finish a thought, right? And
Yeah.
I'm actually seeing more of it on the Bill Maher thing. I don't sit and watch
CNN
Bill
has
Maher.
that guy who's doing a
Scott
pretty good job.
Jennings, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been laying waste to some people on there.
Yeah.
I see those clips across there, and I don't sit and watch Bill Maher, but I watch this, the clips of stuff, and people are fed up with, they're paying a lot of taxes and not seeing anything for it,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, so Social Security, with this whole retirement thing, more people taking benefits sooner saves the government money in the long term, but it creates a cash flow issue too,
Mhm.
because now they're bringing money out sooner, so that starts affecting the budget sooner, even though in the long term it saves the government money on the payout. So that's going to cause a cash flow issue, which is going to drive national deficit issues and discussions and budgetary issues and things like that, right?
Mhm.
And then politics. With so many dependent upon the stock market returns, politicians, will continue supporting the markets. They And it's just the way it is. If this
Right.
And we know Trump will look. We know he looks at the stock market,
Mm.
and we know if the stock market's going up, he's going to take credit. If the stock market's going down, he wants to do something about it. And
Mhm.
realistically, put aside the name of the politician, with so many people invested in the markets for the retirement savings, that can go very sideways for a politician when it comes to reelection and popularity if the stock market's going down. Easiest way to support the stock market, print money. And we know that brings another host of issues.
Yeah.
So what's Alan said there?
Alan says, my wife and I planned for retirement, paid off unnecessary bills, refinanced our mortgage to a lower percentage and number of years, built in more equity into the house and property, saved cash each month for building up emergency stash, etc. Living pretty good for very little college. Hard work yields results. Yeah.
White privilege.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay. I saw right through that. You see that?
Mm.
I'm here for you guys. But no, Alan, good on you.
Yeah.
In
If
all
there was
seriousness,
such thing as a
good on
white privilege, it would be advantageous to put white on your college admissions paperwork, and it is absolutely not.
you. Absolutely. Yeah.
But they'll give you
So, but this is, and this is what Alan just described there. And I know it's what a lot of other people who are watching right now have done. They've acted responsibly. And as my bride and I talk about, I'm sick and tired of being responsible and being punished for it.
Amen.
Right. And people are fed up. They're fed up with the machine, which is why we have Trump 2.0. People are fed up. And it's going to come out at some point here. Right. And let's hope it comes out in a civil discourse, maybe a rowdy Facebook argument here and there, and nothing beyond that. But we need to be ready for more.
Yes. It's what the American Warrior Society is all about.
Absolutely. Always be prepared. Always be looking for that next problem and be ready for it. And if you're ready for the problems, they aren't such big problems. So
what's Joseph say?
Let's see here. Biden did one good thing and only one in his words, eliminating the Social Security windfall elimination provision and government pension offset. I will agree with that. So, all right. So what's our last slide here? Motivational. Let's hear the dulcet tones of Rich Brown here.
You throw a bucket of water on a rock and it doesn't do anything. You let a drop of water fall onto a rock every day and it creates a hole. Consistency beats intensity. Man, that is so true. Whether it's anything, like I got one of my kids has a disgusting room, right? And then they'll go into this mode where they just work like 2 or 3 days and it looks great for 5 minutes, right? It's like, no, create consistent habits. When you get out of your, when you get out of your car, you take everything with you, your trash, all your bags, stuff. Car stays nice. Same thing with your room. It's like this consistency beats intensity every single time.
Yep, I agree. I am the clean out the truck Nazi. My truck is usually, like the floor mats are usually filthy because I'm in and out of gravel and blah blah blah. But every time I get out of the truck, you got any trash? We're walking into Home Depot. There's a trash can right by the front door.
Amen.
If we carry it in now, we don't have to do it at home.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's that just whether you want to talk about, did you dry fire today?
Yeah.
Did you get some sort of workout in today? You don't have to crush it every day. Just do it every day. Right. And those little habits over and over again, 15, 20 minutes a day here and there, it adds up and it becomes exponential.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if it's a workout, you know how it is. You've been there, and everybody watching right now has been there. I don't feel like working out today. I'll just go do a short workout. And you end up going and doing your regular workout because once you're out there, it's like, I might as well just knock this out. Right. Or I don't want to be a pansy. Right. Once you're there, show up and do it every day.
An accountability, a community that holds you accountable is another good thing. Like I've been very blessed the last 4 or 5 months to have one of my very good friends that lives here, and he and I go to the gym regularly. We've got a great program we're on, and I'm the strongest I've probably ever been in my life, and I'm 55. So, but we hold each other accountable. So if you can find somebody like that, whether it's dry firing, investing, shooting, fitness, combatives, whatever it may be, I think that find those members of your tribe who are on the same journey you are, and hold each other accountable.
Absolutely. So with that, how about you take us out, brother?
All right, guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation, thanks for being with us. Will is going to be out next Monday. I'll see if we can get Dr. Fuller to come in and stand in, and then he will be back after that. And the boys are back in town, guys, and looking forward to 2025 because the fight just might be coming. Be ready.